Welcome, .NET friends, and thank you everyone out there for tuning in to yet another episode of the On.NET Live show. If you're new here, our mission is really to empower you, the viewers, to achieve more with all things .NET. I'm your host, Scott Addie, and I'm joined by co-hosts Rachel Kang and David Pine. Super excited to welcome today's guest, Pedro Jesus. Pedro, would
Hello.
you like to briefly introduce yourself to the audience?
Sure. So my name is Pedro Jesus, and I am a mobile developer using .NET, and I also have been contributing with the project since Xamarin Forms, Xamarin Essentials, Xamarin Community Kit, and also Community Kit.maui. And yeah, basically, it's that me.
Awesome. So my understanding today, Pedro, is we're going to talk about custom controls in .NET MAUI. Is that correct?
Yeah, is that correct? I will focus most on handler part because I believe that it's a new thing on Maui, and most people still don't get most of the ideas correctly. It still brings some mindsets from custom handlers that came on Xamarin Forms. So I believe that would be a good subject to talk about.
That sounds great. I'd say let's jump right in.
Great. So first of all, this is the .NET MAUI code, right? The .NET MAUI project. And here I will talk a little bit about the handler architecture, and then I will jump into live coding where we will implement different controls and customizations on controls using the MAUI and the init architecture. So first of all, I have here a view handler that is the basic concept of communicating a shared view, like an entry or a button on the Xamarin, on the Maui's word, to the platform-specific control, like the Y button or UI text or edit text view. So in order to create a view handler, you need to make sure that your platform control you inherit from UI view, if you are on iOS or Mac Catalyst, from the view on Android, or framework element on Windows, or a view on the Tizen. And that is important because, for example, if you want to create a pop-up control, like we have on the Maui Community Kit, and it's a dialog on Android, for example, and a view controller on iOS, you cannot use the view handler for that because it does not inherit from the view. It's a visual thing, but it's not the concept of the view, And instead, the handlers, let's see, for example, the implementation here for the button handler. We have here the button handler, and we have two important things now on the .NET MAUI handler. That is the property mapper and the command mapper. And think those about the property change triggers, like on the Xamarin Forms, when you go on the custom handler and you override the on element change or on the property change, then you do a big if else statement or the switch statement looking for each property to do when that property change to do some customization on the control. Here you don't need that. You just need a mapper, and this will be all handled by the framework for you. So it's less code and it's less verbosity to get the things working. And a biggest difference between the command mapper, this guy here, and the property mapper is that the property mapper will run all those methods here when the control is initialized. And the command mapper will just run those actions here when some property changes. So for example, if I create a custom control and you don't want those actions to be activated during the initialization of that control, you should use the command mapper. Then that doesn't mess things up. Not sure about the audience, but when I was doing some Xamarin Forms custom control, that was sometimes a pain because there was specific properties that I don't want to run during the initialization of the control, but the framework will run those no matter what. And with the handlers, we have that control. And those mappers are just a dictionary that maps a string, normally is the property normally no, it's the property name of the, for example, the text, the background color or whatever, and is mapped to an action. And this action will run when that property changes. So, it's the same concept that was before the property changed, but all the engine is new. Um, so yeah, I believe that this is what I have to show about the handler architecture right now. I'm not sure if anyone else wants to add something, or we can jump to the.
Yeah, I was just going to say, if our live viewers have any questions at any point, please be sure to ask those questions in chat. We'll make sure that we try to address them here. But I don't have any questions so far. And I must admit, like for me, I've not really done much mobile development. I've always admired it. I've always wanted to jump into it. I do have my Xamarin shirt that I did that one app. It's got the C# on it, right? I did the store app many years ago, but I never took it further than that. So I'm curious. Maybe folks in the chat could share some of their experiences as well.
Oh, great. So yeah, I will move on, and as soon as we have any question, I can jump in. Let's switch here to the sample app that I will be using today. So today the sample app, to make things simple, and since we have not too much time, I will run on mobile, so iOS and Android first, and I will ignore the Windows right now, but you can totally apply those things on Windows as well. It's just a matter of time, and I believe most of people still use MAUI for mobile, so I believe that will be amazing for them as well. So let me start here my emulator, and I will talk a little bit about what we will gonna see today. So I have here two pages prepared. One we will work with entries, and another one we will create a custom control from scratch. Okay, so the first thing that I want to show here on entries is how we can change the platform-specific behavior or appearance without creating any custom control. And this is something very very common on the mobile application. Like on the entry, we have that underline on the entry, and most of people don't like that underline on the entry. So in order to remove that, normally was to create a custom handler for that on Xamarin Forms and customize one line of code just to remove that line. So you add a bunch of code, you do a bunch of infrastructure just to remove a small thing. And here, let's see how we can do that with handlers, and pretty easily, like in a couple of line of code. So here I have this class that I will use for that, and I set it up some things. So let's jump into that. I created here an attached property that I can use it on any entry control. So I don't need to create a custom entry necessary. I can use the attached properties here in order to make that work. And here I have my bundle property, as you may already know, and the set and the get methods that we needed to implement for attached properties. And here I have a static void method map border that I will use to attach this to my mappers. So if you remember, we have that property mapper that we have all the properties and the methods that should run when the property changes. So this is a sample of a method that method or that action. You can do that inline, because it's an action, so you can do anonymous functions, or you can create your own method. It's all up to you. And of course, we needed to register this somewhere. So the best place to do that is right here on the MAUI program and on the configure handlers. And this is a good place because this will run just once, and you just need to run that once. If you run more than once, odd things could happen. So, it will not be that good. So make sure that any mapper change that you do or any handler configuration that you do will run just once. That code that will apply the change will run just once. And here I have the mapper, and I have this add command. The add command is basically like, okay, I want to introduce a new property to that entry handler. So whatever that property changes, that will notify between the entry and the whatever platform specific is for that entry. A UI text view or app compact edit text view on Android, if I'm not wrong, or a text box on Windows. So So that is the platform layer that the handler will communicate between. And here is my mapper, that one that I showed earlier. So I am registered that, and whatever that has border property changes, my configuration will change here. So let's go there and implement here. The first thing here is that it's use. Okay, I need to restart my Visual Studio because keyboard is not fully working. So 1 second.
Did it have anything to do with running the emulators?
No, I don't think so. Sometimes I have this issue with Visual Studio, but no, I'm using preview, like Living Dangerous.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. Living on the edge.
Yeah, exactly. So probably it's because of that. So.
And anytime you get hundreds of people looking at your code as you're typing it, that's when things happen, right?
100%. So I have my keyboard again. So the first thing that I will do is to cast this I entry to my entry control. So Xamarin Forms uses again, not use the same name, of course. Xamarin Forms use interfaces to represent the shared control layer because Xamarin Forms, .NET MAUI uses interfaces to represent the shared controls. And the reason of that is because .NET MAUI is not just a UI framework that you can build mobile applications or desktop applications with. It's also an engine that, like, if you want to create your own cross-platform UI framework that uses another approach rather than MVVM, you can use the MAUI and implement like this interface I entry and create your own concept of the entry for your new cross framework UI, and then you can use that. So have the interfaces here make this framework more powerful. So it's a UI framework, but also is engine if you want to build your own. And on we have 2 implementations of that, as far as I know. That is the Comet one that is using MVU, and also I believe is MAUI Reactor, if I'm not wrong. That is another community implementation of the .NET MAUI, but focused on MVU and not MVVM pattern. So it's because of that the MAUI will see a lot of interfaces, and in this case here we needed to cast this interface to our concrete control. So because of that I am doing this cast here. So this mapper here is just for me to remove the border on the control. So I will be something pretty simple. So I will just see if the E is set and has border property. So whatever this property has border property is set, I will remove the border. Here I don't care if it's true or false. It's just a flag that I can know that, hey, on this entry I want to remove like that underline on the control or the borders if I am running on iOS. So if this is set, then I will do Android and iOS here, and doing this end if here. So basically, and I will switch context here to Android to get IntelliSense for the Android. So basically here, MAUI is single project, so you can have access to all the frameworks that you are targeting on the single file. So this will allow me to change the context. So everything between this if Android and if iOS will be compiled just for Android platform, and everything here, where I use my cursor right now, will be compiled just for iOS. So I can have on the same file talking to different targets. So I will grab here my handler, that is iEntry handler, and I have this property called the platform view here. And you can see here that the platform view is the app compat edit text. So is what? This is the Android control that the entry is bounded to. And I will grab the background and I will set it to blue. And that's it. Just like that, one line of code, I can remove the underline on Android. And on the Xamarin Forms, people use it to create a custom handler for that. So here, like pretty straightforward. And I switch here to iOS, and I will do almost the same. So handler.platformView. And in this case here, since I am on iOS, now it's a MAUI text field. There is a MAUI implementation of the, let's see if I can navigate to there, of the UI text field. So in this case here, MAUI doesn't use the underlying UI text field provided by the iOS framework. It's using its own implementation, that is MAUI text field, which has more information around needed for the framework. There is extra stuff that can be used to manage like lifecycle events or editing text and etc. So be attention on that, right? Because sometimes when you want to customize your platform control, that we will show next how you do that, it's good to know which control the MAUI is using under the hood to make sure that you don't override, for example, using the UI text field and lost some benefits and some behavior that are already there. So pay attention on that. And here I will use border style. And thank you, Copilot. It's none. You're correct on this one. So giving here just a review for that, what we did so far, I created this map border action that will be mapped on the property change of the has border property. And this is attached property. So whatever this value changes, this code will run and see if I set that property on my control. If I do not set, it should just ignore. But if I set, it will execute this code. On Android, you will remove that underline. And on iOS, sometimes there is a border around the entry, and that border will be removed as well. So, pretty straightforward, one line of code, and you can do like this. And you can reuse it on all controls. And after that, I just needed to add that mapper to my entry handler.map.add. Okay. And the UI code for that will look is this entry page where I have a normal entry with there is no customization here. So it will behave like the normal one. And I have the second entry where I have my borderless entry.hasBorder property, attached the property configured here to false. And that should not appear any, oops, not you. That should not appear the underline on the Android. So just 1 second. Let's go to grab the emulator. And well, while I am starting the emulator, there is any question on the chat that I may?
Yeah, no questions thus far. Everything seems pretty straightforward.
I have one question. In your
Sure.
borderless entry CS file, I think it was lines 10 through 14, you had setter and getter methods.
Mhm.
If I wanted to, could I convert those over to a getter setter property, or is there a reason why they're declared as methods here?
Oh, great question. So yes, you can, but not in this case because we have two kinds of properties, all right? That is attached property and the normal bindable property. When you have like the auto properties there, for example, is when we are creating the attached property. But when you create a normal bindable property, for example, a spoiler, like this control here, I have the bindable property and I have here the normal property that I believe that was what you mentioned, right, Scott? So this is normally used when we have a control, a custom control, and we want to add properties to that control. On the attached properties, like I don't want to create a custom control, I just want to add a behavior to the existing control without needing to create a new one. So because of that, since we don't have access to the instance of that control, we needed to create a static values and the static methods to set and get those values.
That makes
Awesome.
sense. Thank you for the explanation there.
Oh,
We
thank
have
you
some
for
other
the
questions coming in too.
Sure.
All right. 2 questions, both from John on YouTube. So he's asking, like, when you were looking back at the XAML, I believe, and you have has border, if you were to set that to true, will it still remove the border?
Yes, will. On my current implementation, that will. I'm not sure if I mentioned it, but this property here for me is just a flag that no matter if it's true or false, that I want to remove it. So it's like, okay, the normal behavior is that we already have the underline. So there is no need to specify that as a true. But I want something like that mentions, okay, I have that property there. So since I have that property there, I want to remove the underline. And keep in mind, this is like an example on my own application. No, it's not like a shared library. Because if it was a shared library, I will be more careful and make the true and the false have a meaning. But since it's my own project, I can do like those silly stuffs just to make things work.
Awesome. And then the next question from them is, how do you make this work with Win UI as a target?
Sure. I will just, on my CS project, I will uncomment this line here. Then I will be able to build for Windows again. And I will just add, for example, here, a line, Windows. Do you have a Windows here? Oh yeah, I don't have because I don't have that uncommented. Because of that, is not showing the
right.
Windows.
Yep. Okay, that makes sense.
And then you do the code here, and looks like the Copilot's already doing that for me. So yeah, why not? Thank you, Copilot.
Perfect. Love that. Awesome.
One more. Make that. Go ahead.
I was gonna say one more question here. This is from Lucas on YouTube. They're asking specifically about the best approach for these types of changes. When you're creating a new entry called no border entry and modifying the handler, or the one you're currently doing.
That is a good question, and I would say there is no best or bad approach. It's more like what do you want to do? Like, okay, for me, it makes sense to create a custom control for that because the project that I am, the people kind of like this pattern better than using properties. It's more explicit. Like, okay, I have this control, and this control will have no border. Okay, you can go create a custom control for that, and you can. And the only thing that will change is this implementation here, because you have a custom control and you have a bindable property as normal property, right? We will not have that attached to the property here. But the mapper will be the same. This piece of code here that is selected will be the same, and you just add that to the mappers as I show it. So at the end of the day, will be the same thing, and it's more about what you like to do, how you like to code, or how is the pattern that you and your coworkers use. You have a choice. This is the great thing about Maui right now. You have a lot of choices on what to do, and just choose one.
Awesome.
Okay, I'm building right now here, and I will show that on Android, and you can move forward for the next one. The first build normally is a little bit slower.
Yeah, I guess while that's building, we'll take advantage of another question. Sure. This one's coming from Twitch, and they're saying, since you're using WSA, can you do a WinUI component here or an iOS? I'm not really familiar with WSA. I don't know what that is.
Oh, it's a Windows subsystem for Android. Now it's like you can run the Android on your machine. But sadly, that will be retired soonish. I can't remember the end of life of that, but we will not have that anymore. But sadly, for the developers, that was amazing. But answer your question, yeah, I can create a WinUI and iOS component right here. There is no problem with that. But there is nothing to do with the Windows subsystem for Android. That is because Maui has supported to Android, iOS, and WinUI. So I can, no matter which those platforms are, I can create custom control for them as well, or customize the controls for those platforms.
Okay.
Okay, it's almost there.
So I always still find it fascinating that we have, tools that allow us to target mobile devices and run them on our PCs and use an IDE like Visual Studio here to let the developer write C# and XAML and target multiple platforms. And I'm always still amazed by it, just like the seamlessness of this. Like you have preprocessor directives in there to say, I want this to be iOS, or I want this to be Android or Windows or whatever. And it's just really convenient.
Yeah, totally agree. And a good thing about Maui And I would say .NET Mobile in general is that we mapped the native APIs to C#. So, if you want to access the context API on your Android or iOS device, you don't need to go to Kotlin or Java or Objective-C or Swift. You can just use Visual Studio using the C#, the language that you love, and customize all of that. So yeah, I have it running here. So this is the entry, and this is the line that we want to remove. And if I go to the entries page, so I have the normal entry with the underline and no border underline entry right there without that underline. And it will work just like the normal entry as well. So
Woohoo!
yeah, nothing changed for the first try. And yeah, sadly I cannot use the hot reload here because I'm doing a lot of stuff, because otherwise I will probably keep on that, because this is another good thing. You have hot reload for XAML and for C#, and for small things that you change, you can keep the project running and no need to rebuild. But yeah, let's talk about the second implementation here. Now will be a custom control that I want to use here. And the custom control will be an image entry where I want to put an icon on the left or on the right on my entry. And the native platforms support that, but the MAUI doesn't expose those APIs. The native platform for Android and iOS. Okay, the Windows, I believe you need to create a custom template, because on Windows more like a composition thing than the other platforms. But on mobile, we have that out of the box. So here I have those bindable properties, and those properties like the image width and height that I can choose to be how will be the size of that image, the image itself, the source, the source of that image, and the alignment, if the image will be on the left or on the right. And I have here my image entry on Android that I will implement, and then we can go to the image entry on iOS. So if you can think on the mindset of the Xamarin Forms, for that we needed to create a custom handler and implement that on that custom handler. And if you bring that mindset to .NET MAUI, the first thing that people will do, and I see that a lot in articles and other code samples, is people create a custom handler. And the handler architecture was created to fix that thing where you need to create a custom handler every time on form. So most of the time you don't need to create a custom handler to customize those controls. You can just leave the handler there and you can extend the handler as you need. So the first thing here that I will create will be a static void method, create platform view. Can be any name, all right? This is just a method that we'll call later. And on the handler, all the view handlers, we will have this platform view factory. This is just a func that will accept a view handler and should return the platform specific code. Okay, so since this is a func, I will implement this inline. So I will have here my handler, and you create an anonymous function for that. And here I should return the app compat edit text, because the handler expecting that platform control. So this is what I am gonna do right now. So in this case here, I will already configure my control to return, to do some configurations and do some modifications to return what I need here for Android. So let's implement that on the name. So I will create my first edit text. That will be a new app compact activity. And I should pass here a context. So I will do handler and grab the Android context right now. So let's write this is complaining. Created the wrong type. App compat edit test. Now we go. And I will do a check here, like if my handler.virtual view, and the virtual view is the shared view of the MAUI, so in this case will be an entry, is not a image entry, and I call this image entry, I will return my edit text. So I'm doing here a short circuit, like if I am using a normal entry, I don't want to apply those changes that I will write here. But if it is an image entry, then I want to configure how will be my icon configuration like that. So here I will create a string is nor empty. Then I will grab handler and I will, to make my life easier here, I will, oh no, it's already here. The entry, and I will use the image, that is the property that will hold the source image. So if this is not null empty, I will configure the...
Pedro, I did want to call attention to the fact that you're using pattern matching. You said to make your life easier. Oh, I already have access to it because it's in scope, which is an amazing feature of C#. And someone specifically commented on that, saying that they love seeing is not instead of, bang equals.
Me too.
I love that. Yeah.
I love pattern matching as well because it's so easy and there's everything like just there for me. So to win some time, I will copy and paste here because I see that we still have a lot to cover, and typing here will not be any useful. So okay, let's see if he's happy. And I just renamed this guy to this and this guy to this. And oops. So I just did here a rename, and I will grab the handler.context right here and handler.context right here. So basically I'm creating here my platform control. That is now my image entry, and I am configuring this to apply that image at the end. And I will need now just to return this to my function.
I just, sorry to interject real quick here. We do have a question about the specific is not versus not equal null, and I'll explain it real quick here on line 18.
Sure.
So when Pedro says if handler.virtualView is not image entry element, so if it's not going to evaluate as true, line 19 is what's executed. It's going to return then the edit context. Otherwise, it's going to declare and initialize the variable element as an image entry that is not null, that you can then use in that scope inside the method. So it's actually, it's a terse way, or actually a less verbose way to kind of express, with pattern matching your intent. So not null is a little bit different in that you'd have to, like, this is doing the whole type checking and then declaration of a variable, and it's in scope all in a single line. Whereas if you're just saying not null, then you have to like cast it down on the other line, knowing that it's not null, and it becomes a lot more lengthy. So that's a really good question.
Mm-hmm. And if you allow me to add something, is using pattern matching is safer than using equals or not equal, because you can override those operators. So, someone can override that, and you try to check for no, could not be the right thing that you want to do. So, pattern matching, you cannot override, so it's safer than using those that equals or not equals implementation. And I will do that for iOS here as well, creating this platform factory view. So since we are using multi-target here, it's very important to the same method name signature be presented on iOS and on Android as well, or if you are using Windows, on Windows as well. So I will just do that right here, and I will grab the code on iOS real quickly to create this guy here, and those static methods. And one thing that I would like to point out is, like, I am on the shared context right here, but if you see, this class just compiles for iOS, and this another class just compiles for Android. And this is not out of the box on when you create a .NET MAUI application, like putting suffix on your files, like .android will just compile for Android, and .iOS will just compile for iOS. You need to add some instructions on your CS brush. So I added those instructions right here. So the MS build will be smart enough to say, okay, if my class has the .android suffix, that means that I want to compile this for Android and not for the other platforms. So in that case, I can start off doing those. If here, some people doesn't like them, some people like them. So if you don't want to use them, you can split those into separated classes, or you can use here this built-in platform folders, and this also will just build for Android, and this one will just build for iOS. So again, you have choices to do that.
That's perfect. Yeah, we actually had a question that we had saved for a little bit here, and Raphael is asking, is it a good practice to put the platform's code under the platform's folder? So thank you for answering that.
Oh, I didn't see that. So yeah, great question.
Perfect.
So right now, the only thing that I need to do is to call my image entry and create platform view method. So again, this method just run once because I am just in changing what will be the native view that my entry handler will use. So in this case, on iOS will be the MAUI text field, like I showed before, when we are doing the attached property, that the MAUI has this MAUI text field and not the UI text field for iOS, and I am configuring that one. But since we are on Android, this one will be used. And I'm not sure. Oh, it's probably. Okay, it's going. So if I go here, entry pages, and oh, I have an error here. Yeah, I would like to show this error because it's something pretty neat and on Android. So this is saying that I could not find that resource that I was looking for, and I was looking for an image that I aimed off my app, the image that comes with the MAUI template. And the reason for that is because I am doing this .png. So Android doesn't like that when you will look for resources. So the fix here is pretty easy. Just remove the .png, or if you release a library with this custom control, make sure to remove the extension of the image or of the asset, okay? So this is, I like to show those kind of pitfalls because, they are very simple and very easy to follow them, and you may lost 2 hours of your day trying to figure out where is wrong, and just, it's like, oh, is that .png?
That's funny. I would have done that. I would have been the guy that's like, this is a PNG. It has to be a PNG file. What are you talking about?
Exactly. So right now, not sure if you can see because it's pretty small, but yeah, we have here an image. Let me increase its size. Let's see if that helps. And if how to load it will work. Yeah, it's working. So yeah, I have here this image, this icon image present there. So it's pretty easy to add that to the control. And as I mentioned before, I do not need to create a custom handler. I just created this small func here, this small method to override the native control that's coming in from the MAUI, and boom, there we go. And we have that. And other entries will not be influentiated for that. So for example, those 2 entries here will not reuse this code because they aren't image entry. This will be true, so this will just go forward with the base implementation that .NET MAUI has. Okay, and right here, the one thing that we can add right now here is like, this will not respond to property changes because I do not implement those mapper and do not name it those mappers. But I will do that real quickly because it's pretty fast. And luckily, I will just need to do one call here. So I will remove this line here, and I will grab the code that I already have here. So only thing that I will do is refactor that switch statement to another method that I can use in other places. So it's just like here, and I will call this, this map image mapper here. So this will trigger every time that one of those properties here changed. And how I tied that together, I go again on my MAUI program, and I will do again an entry handler .mapper .add. And here I can use the name of, because since they are properties, I can do that with any trouble at all. So I do imaging, and I will do the same for the other properties. Image width, image height, and I believe the last one is image alignment. And does not contain definition. Oh yeah, I needed to have the definition on iOS as well. So remember that the same method that you do on one side, you must do on the other side as well. So let me grab here the iOS method and create the map here. And that should be happy now. So let's try to read again. That will do nothing right now, but right now, this is responding for property changes. So if you have a button that will change the icon, if it's the left or the right, that will respond right now. And what you did here, I just added a property to that mapper, that existing mapper. So again, the .NET MAUI handler is very, very extensible, and you don't need to create a custom handler to customize things. You can just do that with the existing APIs. And we have some extension overloads not, other methods to extend the mapper. So you have the add that will create a new mapper to your property mapper that already exists. We have the append to mapping. And the append to mapping is like, okay, I want to add an extra logic on an existing mapping. So for example, I can go to my entry and look for the high property, and I want to add this mapper here when the high property changes. So I will execute the MAUI code that already exists, and I will do my own after that code. And we have the prepend mapping. It's like the same concept of the append, but your code will execute before the .NET MAUI code. And we have also the replace mapping. So I don't want the MAUI code to execute at all. I want just to my code will execute for this property change. So you have the replace mapping there. So again, very, very customizable. You choose whatever you want and how you want to change your control behavior.
So Pedro, there's actually a lot of interesting conversation occurring right now in the YouTube chat, specific to mappers, and so John is specifically calling attention to some of the performance issues that they've encountered with testing, the property mapper and handler lookups. And he says, the architecture resolves around strings. So I'm curious, with your experience, have you experienced any of those, potential bottlenecks or performance concerns with the mapper approach?
Yeah, this is a good question. And this is no issue, and the team is working on that. So what happens for this bottleneck is not like just because it uses a string, because the property mapper and content mapper are dictionaries under the hood. So they are a hash table. So it's pretty damn fast to look up on those. But during the initialization of the control, sometimes the same mapper will run more than once, and that will add that bottleneck. Like, I don't need to run the high 3 times if the high doesn't change. Excuse me, but sometimes that happens. The team is aware of that, and they are doing their best to fix that ASAP. But in my experience, I can see the numbers that the performance is not ideal or great, but I never, using the application, feel that was something that will prevent people to use the app or the experience will be bad. Yeah. But a good shout out to the MAUI team, because right now on those later services releases, they are working a lot on performance. There is Jonathan Peppers doing amazing work, eliminating all the memory leaks that they have there, and also increasing the performance. So awesome. I am pretty much sure that .NET 9 will be way, way better on those terms.
Awesome. Yeah, and Fuel Snabble from Twitch is specifically saying that they should add a source generator. I'm all about that. A source generator is all the way down.
Yeah, they changed that for some things, like XAML pages. They have they have this generated code behind, and on Xamarin Form, this uses MS build task to generate those code, and now they are using source generator. So it's good to see that the project is moving to new and good stuffs to implement it. So we will probably see more and more source generators on the framework.
Yeah, I was thinking it'd be really clever if someone from the community would create a source generator for all the platform different views. I could imagine a source generator that just knows how to map everything out to its platform. So you just write one simple template or component or whatever, and then there's all the different platform implementations of it. That'd be cool.
Yeah, that is one idea. If I'm not wrong, the committee uses that, to create those controls patterning or area, because it's a lot of repeating code. The structure is always the same. So it creates a template using source generators, and boom, there we go. And yeah, that is a great idea for sure. So let's go to the last demo. And this last demo is on the case where you needed to create a custom handler. And in this case, normally is when you want to implement a control in .NET MAUI that doesn't exist, right? So for example, you don't have that control on the .NET MAUI, so you need to create your own control, go into the platform-specific code and dig into there and creating the handler and the shared view. And then in that case, is a good approach to use the handlers, to create the handlers. And right here, I choose this horizontal progress bar. That is a control that I grabbed from a friend of mine, Ione. He made a lot of Xamarin Forms clone apps. And this is from one, I don't believe this is for Duolingo or Yellow Epic Clone that they made a while ago. But I think this is a great approach because it's not so, it's a kind of custom control that is not so usual for the MAUI developers. So, showing something pretty different, I think will be a great idea here. So again, I have here this inheriting from view because, cannot inherit from entry for nothing. So or the control, because there is nothing near to that, what I am trying to do. So when you want to create like a shiny new control on the .NET MAUI, you must inherit it from view. This is the most basic UI control for MAUI. So I created that, and here I have my horizontal progress bar handler. This is a partial class. So because I have this shared class here that will compile for iOS and Android, and then I have the Android and iOS implementation right here. So I created my property mapper, and I added the view mapper. So this is the mapper for the view control and the view handler. So make sure to add this to bring to your control those existing mappers. So for example, translated X or Y or high and width. So this is already existing, and I don't need to handle those properties that already exist. So I just add my the properties in the code that I need here. And I just needed to create these two constructors here. And boom, this is the shared part. And let's come here to the Android, where I have my horizontal progress bar handler. Then I inherit from view handler. And I have the shared control. This is my horizontal progress bar. And I have my Android control. That is the Android.widget.progress bar. And I did that because we're using global users here on the MAUI. So there is a progress bar control already there. So to not have an ambiguous call, I just use this alias here to make sure, okay, a progress bar is just the Android one. And for the implementation, I have here my create platform view. So here is the place where you will create your platform control. And this is exactly the same idea as this platform view factory here. So on the handler, you do the override this method, and this will return the native view for you. And we have those two methods, connect, and I didn't call it here, the disconnect handler. I will not use those here, but those methods are used like, okay, I created my control, and now my handler is connected to my shared view. So what I want to do when this is connected? Maybe I want to subscribe to some event handlers to see some property changes, or some clickers, or some event listeners, or whatever, or implement some delegates on iOS to take care for custom behavior. And when you do some cleanup, you call the disconnect handler. But be patient and aware of that. This is something that Shane, he's an engineer on the .NET MAUI team. He's always trying to tell people that this will not disconnect when the control leaves the platform, the view, there is not on the visual tree anymore, and this will be called. No, this will not be called automatically, because the MAUI framework cannot know when you want to cache that control to use another page or another view, or when you want to remove that control. So if you're experienced like doing some performance investigation or profiler and see that control is not garbage collected, make sure that maybe you need to call this method manually. All right, so be aware of that, people. So, and here I have my maps to those properties, like that will behave on the property change. And right here I have my extensions that will control those those aspects of my control itself. So like instead of implementing the code here, I implemented the core changes on those extension methods. And this is an approach that .NET MAUI uses because it's easier for them. Like, okay, do you want to override the map control? then you can just call it the extension method that already exists and implement your own logic. It's like calling the base if you are doing inheritance and polymorphism. So this is one that idea. And what this control is, because this is a little bit different, because this control, as you can see here, relies on these drawable files that are XAML files. So for Android, I have to create those XAMLs that will be shapes in Android Word, and they are defined in XAML. So I created those here and created this drawable folder inside the resources, inside the Android folder. And the build action should be Android resources, okay? So if you want to replicate something like that, make sure this is Android resource and rebuild your application to generate those, the resource mapper where you can have access on your code, because if you add and put that as an Android resource, it will not be available yet. You need to do a full rebuild to the tooling generate these mappers for you. And with that, we are good to go. So to win some time here, I will just copy and paste what I have here, but that will be pretty simple because it will be just one line of code. So I'm accessing my handler, my platform view, that is my app progress bar, and calling those extensions methods that are right here to update the background, to update the progress value, and to update the progress drawable there. And that's pretty much it. Now we just need to remember to add the handler on the control. So inside this configure handler, I added the handler, and I use the type of my shared control, that is the horizontal progress bar, and then my progress bar handler, so my view handler for that control. And let's execute this real quickly. And while this is building, let me close all, and let's take a look on the iOS implementation. So wrong file. So the iOS doesn't exist on the platform level, this horizontal progress bar control. So we needed to create our custom control in iOS layer before we can do that on the MAUI. So here I have this horizontal progress bar iOS that inherits from UI view, and this UI view is iOS world, okay, guys? So there is no MAUI here. And I draw, using the drawing APIs from the iOS, my horizontal progress bar and how that will behave. So again, this is very powerful. I am accessing the underlying APIs on the iOS just using C#. You don't need to switch to another language to do that. And this control doesn't exist on iOS as well. So I am creating that on the iOS world and then reusing that control on the .NET MAUI. So again, this is very powerful. You can create, if that control doesn't exist, we can implement that on the native layer and use that on the MAUI. So this is very useful. For example, if you want a control that doesn't exist and you see like a Swift implementation of that, you can translate that Swift code to your C# code and use that without needing to do a native binding, for example. So, oh, yeah, I did not configure correctly the, where is, because the progress bar that I am returning here was just a placeholder to build. So let me grab the correct implementation for that. That is just now adding style that progress should be horizontal. So as you can hear is a normal activity indicator, but I don't want that. I just want something horizontal. So let's see if the C# hot load will work here. No. So let's rebuild. No problem.
Wait for it.
Okay, almost there. And horizontal progress bar. And yeah, now we have this bar here. And every time that I click this button, I am changing the progress value, and the progress value you can see here above. So, it's responding to property changes, and the value is being updated on my UI while I click here. So again, it's pretty straightforward to create a custom control on the .NET MAUI. As you can see, like this control doesn't exist at all. And I could use the full power of the platform-specific layers. On the Android, they created this Android XAMLs to represent those shapes, that shape that will be this background and the shape that will represent the progress. On the iOS, I used the draw APIs to draw that control and use that on the .NET MAUI world. So the possibilities, are endless, and you can do whatever that you want with the handlers and those frameworks. And just a wrap up, our full review of that, like here on the entries pages, we changed those two entries here without creating a custom native control or a custom handler. We just extended what already is in there to our needs. So, it's less code to maintain, it's less code to write, it's less code to review, and it means you will be more productive as well.
Awesome. Yeah, we do have a few questions here before we let you go. The first one is coming from Twitch, where the user is asking, is Maui like Flutter?
In general, I would say yes, because it's a cross-platform framework to create applications to different targets using the same code base. But the concept is pretty different. Flutter, they use Skia Sharp to draw everything on the UI, and Maui we use on native controls. You use what already is there in each platform. So yes, but no. They are cross-platform frameworks, but they have their own specific behaviors and things.
Awesome. And then Steve asked about whether or not this code will be available in a GitHub repository somewhere so that they can check it out. And George followed up later on asking the same question. They all want to see the code and get their hands on it.
Sure. Let me make the public 1 second, and I will share the link right in a second. But yeah, there is a repo there, and I split it using branches. So you can. I have a branch called the controls. That is the one that I implemented, and there is another completed branch. So if you want to exercise that, it's a good one. You have the two ways of doing it yourself and see what is the final one. And
awesome. So yeah, you'll get that link together. You'll message it here. We'll put it up on screen and we'll share it in the chats. And then awesome. Well, this has been great. This has been a whirlwind of me learning a whole bunch about Maui, things I didn't realize. So thank you, Pedro.
Oh, thank you for having me, and for the audience also to join us today.
Cool.
There you
why
go.
don't we go ahead and wrap up for today then? I wanted to send a big thank you to all of our viewers today, both seasoned and new. We appreciate all the participation in chat. That definitely makes for a more interesting show for our viewers. As a reminder, if you wanted to catch any other live streams like the one you watched today, navigate over to dot.net/live in your browser, and you can watch other live streams and recordings of previous shows like this. Also, as a reminder, we'll return after the Independence holiday in the U.S. next Monday. We'll be joined by our friend Mabruk, who will join the show. We'll talk about enterprise-grade Blazor apps. Hope to see you all there. Thanks again. Bye.
Awesome.
Bye-bye.
Bye, friends. Thanks for watching. Bye.